guys, have you ever felt like you're wandering aimlessly through life, like some character in a video game? Trust me, I know the feeling. Listen, it's time to hit pause and tune into Beverly Explains It All. Join me as we have candid conversations with guests and friends and talk about everything under the sun. Let's figure out what really makes you tick. If you're curious about life and learning how to enjoy the present, let's go down this road of self-discovery so together we can purposely find your purpose. Allow me to ask the questions you're thinking, introduce you to new ideas, and help you live your best life. Come with me on this journey as Beverly Explains It All. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Beverly Explains It All. I have an exciting show for you today. I'd like to welcome my guest, Tylynn Mackenzie. Hey, Tylynn.
Hello.
Tylynn is a multifaceted healer, and I actually did a Reiki session with you not too long ago, my first one ever, and that was awesome. I mean, honestly, I don't know if I've ever felt so relaxed and at peace. I was like, wow, there's something to this.
Yes.
Well, I'm definitely going to be picking your brain about some of that later, but I'd love it if first I could just ask you 5 random quick yes or no questions.
Let's do it. I love it.
Sweet. Okay. Cats or dogs?
I have 2 cats, but I also love dogs. I don't know. I'm very much a cat and a dog person.
I
would love a
very
dog.
torn. Yeah, they're cute. You.
My cats are actually cuddling right behind me now.
Aww.
I have a big orange fluffy cat and a little black cat.
Like a little Garfield.
Yes.
Aww. I want like a menagerie, and my husband's like, we live in an apartment. Calm down.
Yeah.
All right. Pink or blue?
Pink.
That's my choice as well. It's random. I told you. Do you have a favorite flower?
You know, I don't. But I love Hawaiian themed flowers because as a little girl, I grew up in Hawaii. So something about like Hawaiian themed flowers just brings a sense of comfort and nostalgia.
The leis.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Oh man, they smell so good.
Yes.
I'm very jealous that you grew up in Hawaii. That seems pretty awesome.
I was very young. I left there when I was, not even 8 years old. So I have very small memories, but still to this day, my comfort food is Mochi Crunch. So for those of you listening that are like, what is that? It's a seaweed rice cracker that's very common in Hawaii to put in your popcorn. So if you go to the movie theaters, they'll have like seaweed and Mochi Crunch that you do with your popcorn.
Oh my gosh. I mean, lovely. I know that's like a big thing out here in LA. Like people, I remember the seaweed like excitement years ago, and like Trader Joe's started selling them, and I was like, "What is this?" And I was not a fan, but I'm like, you know what? If I grew up in Hawaii, I think I'd like it too.
Oh my gosh, seaweed's amazing. It's like the best snack. I eat seaweed by itself all the time.
It's so salty, but you know what? I don't like sushi, so I feel like that kind of goes in that category. I don't know if you're a sushi fan.
You know, I don't necessarily like the completely raw fish. That to me is a little like, but I do like a good California roll, you know, keep it basic.
It's literally the seaweed that makes my mouth like reject it. Like my tongue just like pushes it out. It's like, nope. I think I'm more of like a sweet, savory versus salty. I don't know. Maybe not. I like olives and pickles.
I love a good salty.
I mean, all right. I know everyone's like, okay, guys, we get it. Seaweed. Seaweed.
Yes. Eat seaweed, listeners.
It's a healthy snack. It is healthy. Last question. What's your favorite holiday?
My favorite holiday. Well, I was born on Easter Sunday.
Oh.
But in like the Celtic lineage, it's known as Ostara, like the celebration of springtime and fertility and abundance, which is why it's associated with rabbits and eggs. So say that that's probably my favorite, just because it's my favorite time of year. It's my birthday, and it's, you know, when we're getting out of the winter and the light starts onto the planet, and we're in that energy of abundance. So
I
Yeah.
love spring. I mean, my birthday is in May, so I'm like, well, you know this. But I love spring. It's a good time. And I had no idea that's why Easter was like associated with rabbits and everything, fertility. Makes some
Hmm.
sense now.
Yep.
Wowza. Okay. Well, can you please tell my audience a little bit about yourself? Like I said, I got to do Reiki with you. I will say a little intro. We met each other at randomly at Kathy
Yes.
Heller's workshop. There were a bunch of really awesome women. It was like an women's empowerment kind of workshop for a couple of days. And I think it was the second day, or maybe it was the first that we ran into
It
each
was the
other
second
randomly. It
day,
was the
and it was
second day.
so like just like a little glimpse of meeting you. It was
Yeah.
so divine. And
Yeah.
then finding out we're so close to one another, I was like, "Yay, I have made a local friend."
I loved it. I was like, oh my God, we're right down the street from each other. Cause like the thing was
Yes.
in like LA, where it was
Mhm.
like, okay, like I'm a valley person. So having to drive that far, I was already like, oh, damn, okay. But then when I got to meet you, I was like, oh, there's a Burbankian. Okay.
Yes.
So we're now homies.
Yes.
Yes. So please, yes, tell everybody a little bit about what you do and what you're
So,
about.
yeah, I am a multifaceted healer. I really began my journey back in 2015. I'm very honest about my story. I was in a very toxic and abusive relationship dynamic, and I needed healing. And it's actually really funny. I was a server at the time, which feels like lifetimes ago. But this woman would always come in and tell me about her job as a massage therapist. And I felt that that was my sign from spirit. This is the path to go on. And I'm so happy that I did, because my physical body needed the healing, and massage was really the catalyst that started everything. So in massage school, I learned about Reiki there, and I was in shock. My jaw just dropped. I was like, wait, what? This sounds like absolute magic. I need
Yeah.
to know everything about this. And I got my first Reiki attunement in January of 2017. And then I started studying shamanic techniques. I was randomly gifted this statue of Thoth, the Egyptian god with the ibis bird head, who was known to have brought astrology to the planet. And that was my self initiation into studying astrology. I was
Wow.
gifted a tarot deck, and then I started studying the tarot, which is very interesting because I studied astrology for years before I'd even picked up a tarot deck. So a lot of
Hmm.
my tarot practice is informed through astrology. And then I also started studying the akashic records, and I also do akashic past life regression, which is my own signature way of offering a past life regression where I open the client's akashic records and I'm using my clairvoyance and clairsentience to go into the past life with them, which is so fun because we can see the patterns that are looping into this present lifetime and heal them. I'm also a yomassage teacher, so that's restorative yoga. And then I go around and I offer therapeutic massage while clients are in these really relaxing postures. And then I also do other group work where I do Reiki healing circles and tarot spaces so people can learn about tarot. And I'm also offering a workshop actually for the beginning of 2025 so people can learn about the hermit year. We're entering into a new year. And yeah, I'm just always on this journey of healing because healing is a never ending journey. So that's me.
I mean, 100%. I'm like, talk about multifaceted. Like, the first time I sat down with you, I think we spoke for like 3 hours or something. I was like, okay, wait, I don't understand and I want to know more. I am so intrigued. I guess I'll start with asking you by this question. Like, can you share a pivotal moment in your life that sparked your interest in healing and spirituality? I know you touched on a bit about the domestic violence that you had to endure, which I'm so sorry about. Do you think that was the biggest thing? Like, do you think there was other aspects that led you down this road?
That was really the pivotal thing for me of my physical body is holding all of this trauma.
Hmm.
And massage was the route that was so clearly displayed for me with this lovely woman who just kept coming in and kept telling me her story. And it was such a clear sign of this is the route to go on. And, I'll be honest, like getting out of that situation was not easy. I don't necessarily think that I would have walked away on my own. And for those of you listening that have been in dynamics like that, you know how difficult it is because your body gets addicted to that adrenaline cycle. And the only reason that I got out of it was the police had come one day and saw the marks on my body, and that
Wow.
was that. And the universe literally pushed me out of that dynamic, and I needed that push because my physical body really needed the healing. And from
Yeah.
there it was just like, okay, healing the body and then going into the energetic body and then going into the deeper layers of the soul and like the karmic mission here. And again, healing is for me going to continue and continue and continue because I am doing my own healing work as a healer so that
Yeah.
I can continue to show up for other people as a healer. I would also say that I have always been connected to my sensitivity and intuition. For those of you listening that do know astrology, I am a 0-degree Pisces rising. So for those of you that know astrology, you're like, oh yeah, that's like super, super sensitive.
Mm.
And growing up, that part of me wasn't always like celebrated or encouraged. It was very much like, why are you crying? Like, why are you so sensitive?
That was me.
And
You're not alone. You're not alone. I was like, if they call me
yes,
sensitive one more time, I'm like, no, I'm not.
but the truth is, like, that sensitivity is now like what I use to provide resources for my life. So,
Yeah.
like, I literally get paid for my sensitivity. So it's like,
Yeah.
I also feel like that's really a pivotal thing because now I really desire to celebrate that for myself and then uplift other people and their sensitivity so that they can connect with their intuition.
I love
Because,
the fact you were able
oh,
to
go
like
ahead.
change, like to just turn that adversity around. And not only are you healing yourself, but you're healing other people. You know what I mean? That is
Yes.
so incredible that you were able to get yourself out of that situation and kind of just change your life, period. You know?
Yes.
That's incredible. Can you imagine if none of that happened?
No. And I honestly couldn't imagine doing anything else with my life. Like, I
Mm.
really couldn't. I mean, I did serving work before and I also did door-to-door sales. Like, I don't even
Oh
know
wow.
how I did that. Like, I was in New Mexico and in New York, like literally just knocking on doors, selling Verizon Fios. Like, I
Wow. So needless to say, you're fearless. Serving. I think
yeah.
that's like a rite of passage for most people. I'm like, oh, I understand. Thank you for your service. I was there. Um,
Yes, always
but
tip well. Tip your
yes,
servers well.
yes,
Yes.
yeah. Man, okay, so we've talked about you being this modern day healer with a unique blend of practices. I mean, hopefully everybody's going to go to your website after this episode, but literally my mind was so blown when I like read all of the things that you do. There's reiki, astrology, massage, obviously yomassage, sound baths, and all these other modalities. How do you bring all these things together to help people on their journeys?
So just to clarify, I don't personally do sound baths, but I do collaborate with some amazing sound bath healers. They are incredible. So essentially, like when they're doing the sound bath, I'll go around and I'll offer Reiki healing,
Oh, I
which is
love
so
it.
fun.
I cannot wait to participate in one of these because one, I've also never have been in a sound bath. I've just seen it on TV and I'm like, okay, I'm either gonna fall asleep, maybe get a headache, or just totally be so zen. But I'm like to have the Reiki element of it since I've now experienced that. I'm like, oh, I might just fall asleep, like like in a good
Yes.
way. You know what I mean?
You will. It's so grounding. And sound is one of the most ancient healing modalities, right? Because our body, with our energy centers, our chakras, they all operate from a certain frequency. And so
Mm.
when we hear these frequencies, even just listening to high frequency solfeggio healing frequencies at home can calm your nervous system. Like, it's so powerful. But yeah, like the way that I blend, it is really dependent on what the client is seeking. So if they're just wanting, a physical healing session, then we'll just do massage. If they're wanting to combine the physical healing with energetic release, we'll do massage and Reiki. I also have a signature offering. I call it my Astro Reiki service, which is a blend of astrology and Reiki. I absolutely love this blend because I am providing an astrology reading. And then we do Reiki healing. So we are calling in your ruling archetypal planet. So, for instance, for you, we would be calling in Venus, Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, and receiving wisdom from her. So, it's really been a personal practice of mine to develop an intuitive connection with these archetypal energies and receive wisdom from them. And it's so fun doing the session for clients because I never know what's going to come through for them.
Yeah.
But I love the blend of the astrology and the Reiki.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was also going to share the other blend that I do is with my Akashic past life regression, because I am opening the records and going into the past life with the client, which I don't know if I've ever heard of ever. I mean, I use the traditional method of the client is guiding it. They're sharing with me what they're seeing, but I'm also there and I'm sharing with them what I'm seeing, what I'm experiencing, which is so fun because then I'm able to tap into aspects that might be difficult or painful for them to see or experience while they're in that lifetime. But clearly they're in the lifetime so that we can heal whatever the pattern is that's still circulating to today.
I mean, that sounds so wild, so intriguing to me, and I can imagine that there could be listeners listening to this who are skeptics. And I mean, I just want you to tell them how like you got your chops, because when I was speaking with you, it wasn't like you were like, "Oh, I read a book and now I can do this," or "I picked up a deck of tarot and now I know what I'm doing." Like, you have studied this and you really know what you're talking about, because even, oh God, I'm going to say it wrong, the something readings,
Akashic records.
readings,
Yeah.
I mean, the Akashic records, like, can you explain a little bit like what that is? Because speaking to you now, this is only like my second time hearing it, but I'm like, oh my God, like, this is so intriguing, like, yes. I guess my question is, how did you get your information? Like, how did you learn about this, and what is Akashic reading?
So for the Akashic Records specifically, I took a course through Ashley Wood. She's known for modernizing the Akashic Records. She also has a podcast. It's called Align Within. So if any of you listening are curious about the Akashic Records, she is a good resource. However, there were some things in her course that my guides were immediately like, no, that's not aligned. For instance, she talks about how the records are physically stored in the Pleiades. And my guides were immediately like, no, they're stored in a dimensional field that essentially has access to the multiverse. And there was other things like in her prayer, she uses languaging like love and light. And from my experience in the Akashic Records, it's not just love and light. Like, we store everything our soul has ever experienced there. So I guess I should just back up and share what are the Akashic Records for those of you listening. So essentially, they're a library to your soul's history. I imagine we all have a spirit scribe and they're there documenting everything in our soul's history. And for me personally, I experienced that through my clairvoyance and my clairsentience. So I get very strong visuals when I'm in the Akashic Records, and they're usually related to emotions and feelings. So with her training, she uses languaging like love and light. And in my experience, it's not just love and light in the records, because we hold deep wounding and pain and sadness from some of these past lives. So in about 2 minutes, I'm not kidding, 2 minutes, my guides shared with me my own unique prayer to access the Akashic Records. My prayer is way more grounding. It has a lot of shamanic elements to it. But for me, it's what's aligned when I'm working with the Akashic records. So I think that's important for everyone listening when you're in the realms of spirituality to listen to your own intuition. Even with me, if something that I'm saying doesn't feel aligned and resonant with you, listen to your own intuition.
Yes.
The way that I see reality is like we are all obviously here on this sphere of the earth. And if you think about it like it's a pizza, like we're cutting little slices from, if we're all looking at a center point, it's going to be different depending on where you're at in the pizza slices. But we all have aspects of truth and we're all connected to this oneness. And so
Wow.
listen to what your own intuition is guiding for you. So yeah, that was where I studied the Akashic records. For massage, that was my first training. I did that at a place called Riverland in Austin, Minnesota. I graduated top of my class back in May of
Hey.
2016. And my
Congratulations.
my training with that was in traditional Swedish massage techniques, prenatal, gua sha, vacuum cupping, deep tissue release methods. And I use a lot of like slow hypnotic style for massage so that the client can deeply relax for the deep tissue work. So it's
I'm like,
not
oh my God, I
like
love
they're
it all.
resisting.
Every single
And then
technique.
for Reiki, I studied that through a woman named Tisha Elder, also back when I lived in Minnesota. Her business, and she's still giving Reiki attunements. If anyone's randomly listening in Minnesota, who knows? She's amazing. So yeah, I studied with her. Her business is called Stone Circle Reiki, which I love because she has a lot of Celtic influence, which was why I was drawn to her as my teacher. So, yeah, she's amazing. And then for my shamanic training, I studied with a woman named Diane Henderson at a place called Heritage Farms. I think it was Heritage Farms, also in Minnesota. And then for I talked about the Akashic records, tarot and astrology, a lot of self-studying. You know, there's so many books out there on both of these subjects, a lot of self-studying, but I also took a few courses. And actually, the first course that I took was why I was at the summit with Kathy Heller, because the first training I ever took was with a woman named Danielle Page, who is an amazing astrologer, and why I work with, the blending of traditional and modern techniques. I work with whole sign houses. I study moon phases, and I work with the asteroid goddesses. So a lot of my practice is influenced like by that training, that the first training that I took, and why I was there in the first place, because she gifted me a ticket.
I mean,
so wild.
I was like, this was all meant to be. Like, just talking about like the oneness of it all. I'm like, I'm curious. I want to know more about what this lady's saying. I don't know how to get in touch with her. She's probably not going to get in touch with me. Hi, Tylynn. How are you? Wait, what do you do? Oh, can you explain some of this stuff?
Yes, it was so divine.
Indeed. I mean, for those who are listening who are just like, what the hell are they talking about? It sounds like womp, 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 womp. We are actually going to do a little chart reading. I don't want to butcher everything because I'm just like, Tylynn, are you going to read my astrology? And she's like, no, I'm actually going to do a natal chart situation. So I want you to tell everyone exactly what we're doing because I'm just in for the ride and the excitement of it all.
Yeah, so we're going to do two different things. We're going to look at your natal chart, and then we're going to look at your solar return chart, because I just released a course to teach people how to find their yearly embodiment card, blending astrology and tarot. So we're going to come back to that. I'll dive deeper into that. Let's just start with astrology. So essentially, you can think of your natal chart as a snapshot of the sky at the very second of your birth. So it's like your first baby picture because showing you, okay, this is what was going on in the sky at that exact second of my birth. So I blend together, again, traditional and modern techniques. I work with tropical Western astrology. So we derive our calculations, yes, from being here on the earth and looking up and seeing how does everything appear to be from our perception here on the earth, which is different from Vedic astrology because with their calculations, I imagine it like you're getting into a spacesuit and then you're going up into the sky and seeing actually the real calculations of where everything is. So that's the thing with astrology. There are so many different ways that people practice and work with astrology, and this is why it's important to have your own discernment of what feels aligned and true for you. So from my perception, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so you kind of like take what speaks to you and kind of leave the other.
Yes.
I like that. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because there's so many ways. Like, so for instance, if you were to go on astro.com and pull up your chart in default setting, it would be in Placidus house system, which your chart would look completely different than the one that I sent you because you'll see some of the houses will be really big and some of the houses will be really small. With whole sign houses, again, it's the most ancient way of looking at a chart, and it splits the zodiacal wheel into 30 degrees equally from 0 to 29 degrees, and then from there it goes into 10 degrees. So it's 10 10 10, which is what we call the decans, and that's how you study the way that tarot corresponds with the zodiac wheel. So I don't want to
I'm
get
looking at it
too
now and I'm like, what?
yeah,
I want to see if
it's
there's
a
a way I
lot.
could share it because I don't even know how to explain what this looks like. And if I can't share it here, I will share it in the show notes. Let me see.
You're so brave. You're like, here's my baby picture for the
Check it
universe.
out. Check it out,
I love it
guys.
though, because you have the sun and Venus on your ascendant. So there's like, with your essence, you're not hiding anything. You're like, this is who I am. This is who I'll always be. And I am this
Exactly.
grounded force.
I'm like, take it as you see it, guys. This is me.
Exactly. That's literally like the definition of a sun on the ascendant.
I love to hear that because I'm like, I think I'm
Yeah.
authentically myself, for better or
Yes.
for worse. Let's see. Oh crap.
So let's go back to the basics here. So if you're looking at your chart, you'll see that it is circular. I know a lot of people are like, oh yeah, let me pull up my chart. And then they show me like CoStar with the tables. And I'm like, this is not your chart.
You're like, what's that?
I'm like a bougie astrologer. Like, no. This is not a chart.
Incorrect. Not so much.
But if you have your chart pulled up through astro.com, so some of the things that I do is I include the asteroid goddesses, and then I change it to whole signs, and you'll see that it's a circle. So I want you to think of your natal chart like this magical cauldron, and your soul is like the essence of magic, right? You'll see the zodiac signs throughout the wheel, and the zodiac signs, I want you to think of them like flavors. So the thing is with astrology, it really represents ranges of energies, ranges of frequencies that we can choose to embody or not. Like we have free will here. So if you are looking at your chart and you're like, I don't want to embody any of that, that's your free will. Like that's your choice. But we can utilize the higher octaves of every single sign if we choose that. So I want you to think of those zodiac signs as flavors. And even within that, like let's say that you are using the energy of paprika. Well, paprika is very different from smoked paprika. Like it's a very different it has a very different taste to it, but it's still in that same sort of frequency range. And so that's how I want you to think about the zodiac signs. And essentially with Western astrology, it is a dance between the sun and the earth, so it follows the seasons. So if you look to the smaller chart, you'll see, if you use astro.com, there's a smaller chart towards the right hand side, and you'll see on the top of that 3 letters CFM, and towards the side you'll see 4 other letters, F, A, E, and water. So that chart is really nice because essentially the zodiac wheel represents the 4 elements that make up this reality, which is the fire, air, earth, and water. And then at the top, you see what we call modalities. So cardinal signs, they always start the season. So for instance, with my birthday being, I'm an Aries sun, Aries energy starts spring. We're initiated into spring, but usually during, Aries season, it's like there can be days that are still freaking cold, like some days that are warm. It's like we're just getting started with spring. But then when we move into Taurus season, which is your rising sign, and also your natal sun and Mars and Chiron as well. We've got here.
I'm
Taurus,
like looking at the little figures and they're like nodding my head like I understand. I'm like, oh yeah, well it has horns, so I think that's the Taurus. Okay, yeah.
Yes, that's a Taurus, the bull, which also came through as one of your power animals in the Reiki, like the bison energy.
Yeah.
Which is like, whoa, as a Taurus rising too. But yeah, fixed signs, that's when we're really held in the season. It's grounded, it's stable, it's secure. And then mutable signs are when we're changing the season. Gemini energy, and we know this, living in LA, Gemini season is like some days are beautiful, some days it's gray and it's raining. It's like
and
we're waiting for the summer.
That a lot. Yeah. Like it's Gemini season. I'm like, what? Oh, I get it now.
Yep. It's that flexible, mutable energy.
Yeah.
So whatever modality you have for your rising sign or your ascendant point, that is going to indicate what your natal chart is rooted in. So let me explain that. So again, you have your ascendant in a fixed earth sign. Your 4th house, which is the roots of your natal chart, fixed fire. Your 7th house, which is the house of relationship dynamics, fixed water. And then your 10th house, the house of career, is fixed air. So you can see how that makes a cross. It's anchoring you into this reality through that particular modality, which I always love that. Okay, so we're going to go back to the natal chart, and I want you to see all of these symbols here. They're either going to represent planets, asteroids, or calculated points. So I want you to think of those as the ingredients that are in our magical cauldron soup here. So
our paprika pizza.
Yes. So let's say we're working with chicken, right? Chickens, it tastes so different if it's flavored with paprika versus cumin versus oregano versus basil. 100%. And that's the fun part, is that these energies represent archetypal frequencies. So for example, your ruling planet, Venus, she is the archetype of love, of beauty, of harmony, of relationship dynamics, of justice, because she's often depicted with her pearls and her seashells.
Yes.
Because she is the goddess of love and beauty, but her more ancient roots, she's a warrior-ess as well. Like she is willing to fight for what she believes is right.
That's me.
Yes.
That is
she
totally
will stand her ground for what she believes
1000%
right.
Oh my God.
So even just between you and I, you having a Gemini Venus is very different in flavor from a Aries Venus.
Okay.
like I love, the challenge. I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner. I love initiating and leadership and going after things and physical things as well. Like Aries is very much a sign about physicality. So that's why I'm very rooted in my yoga practice or dancing or doing my shamanic dancing versus Gemini Venus, which is a love of knowledge. It's a love of communication, a love of speaking. But we both have Venus in the 2nd house, which is also another layer of The second house, I read past life indications through the natal chart as well, through the earth and the water houses, because we store our memory through earth and water. And having a Venus in the second house can oftentimes indicate that we've had lifetimes of extreme poverty and lifetimes of extreme wealth. So there is like a love of the material realm, a love of the experience within the material realm, a love of luxury and the connection that we have with the material items. And also there's a love of belief systems. And this is where it's interesting because a Venus second house can be very stubborn over certain belief systems. Like, I'm not budging, I'm not changing on that belief system. But then it's like causing the lifetime harm in some sense. Like, it's like not productive to carry that belief system. So a lot of like Venus and second house energy is creating a balance within our belief systems, especially when it comes to money and finances. Like, I know for me, a belief system that I've really been working on clearing, and this is from my ancestral lineage of work hard for your resources. Don't be lazy, work hard. And I'm like, why? Why do I have to work so hard? Like, I want to just have a life of ease and, and not work so hard. But
I think people should be able to do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like working is supposed to be hard. No,
yeah. So that's what I mean with Venus in the second house. Like, there is really a heightened influence in this lifetime of looking at these belief systems that oftentimes are passed through ancestral frequency. But yeah, I was just sharing that to say that the flavoring is very different, even though the ingredient, the archetypal energy, is the same.
Interesting. So, wow.
That is just like a very fast overview of the basics of astrology. Any questions on like the foundational pieces before we go into the specifics of your chart?
Are the specifics what's below in like the little boxes?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm like, what is all that? It's scaring me. I'm like, I see triangles and squares, and I don't know what that means.
Oh, so you're talking about the aspects. So the lines that you're seeing, that's the way that the planets are communicating with one another. So we can dive into that if you want. That piece is it's like, how are the ingredients mixing and matching? Like, does chicken taste good if it's paired with cinnamon? In some dishes it might. In some dishes it might be like, what's happening?
Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm like looking at it and I have no idea, but I feel like the overview I get.
Okay, good. I love to do this with clients as like a basic overview because, again, there's so many different ways that people practice astrology. And I always tell my clients, like, I am the artist. I'm an artist interpreting these symbols, interpreting how these ingredients and the flavors are all mixing and matching to create the perfect, beautiful human that's standing in front of me. But I always tell my clients, like, only take what resonates with you. That's super important because I'm just interpreting what I'm seeing here.
Well, I feel like everything you've said has been pretty spot on with me. I mean, down to the stubbornness of the Taurus, down with the justice. Like, I am really annoying. Like, I call myself a customer service person's like worst nightmare because I'm like, if you're not gonna give me what I think I duly deserve, or if you're trying to get away because the company's a big, company and they're not trying to give you any money that you deserve, I'm gonna make your life a living hell because that's not right, and it's the principal, and I want to speak to your manager. That's
yes, yeah, so, and you're a powerful force. Like, your energy's looking at it. I'm like, if you're feeling that way, nothing and no one is getting past you. It is really like the energy of the bison, which also came through during our Reiki session. And at that point, I had never even seen your chart. So I didn't know that you were also a Taurus rising. So you like have that energy as a part of your essence, which, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, the ascendant point, we calculate that through the sign that was rising on the eastern horizon at the exact second of your birth. So that's why we need that exact time. And I know that's why I was messaging you like, hey, we have the time here.
I love that Tylynn was telling me, like, someone gave you their chart and they were like 2 minutes off from their exact birth date, and you were like, that's not gonna work.
Yeah. And I've had this experience happen like way too many times in my career of like, they'll give me a time and then they'll come back to me a few months later and be like, actually, my mom said it was this time. And then the chart is completely different.
You're like, thanks.
Like, we got to dive into this now because
this is all wrong.
Completely different.
Gosh.
So the ascendant point, it can indicate your innate essence. I know a lot of astrologers will use languaging like your rising sign is like the mask you present or wear out to the world. But that doesn't feel aligned for me because why would we choose to wear a mask in our body? Like, this is our body. Like, this is the physical body our soul chose. And it relates a lot to our essence. And so for you, you have your ascendant point at 28 degrees of Taurus. So it means that it's in the third decan of Taurus, which, by the way, I don't know if I shared the piece of the decans of. So every single sign of the zodiac has a natural planetary ruler over it. So that's why I know that Venus is your chart ruler, because Venus rules over both Libra and Taurus. But this is why I love working with the decans, because it adds an extra layer of just beauty to each sign, because you really get that rich energy. So, for example, for Taurus, that first decan, 0 to 9 degrees, is ruled by Mercury and relates to the 5 of Pentacles in the tarot. The second decan is ruled by the moon, which, funnily enough, the moon is considered to be exalted in the sign of Taurus. So she rules over that second decan. And then the third decan is ruled by Saturn and relates to the 7 of Pentacles. So this is your ascendant card. This is why I love blending astrology and tarot, because when you know your ascendant card, this is the energy that you are working with your entire lifetime. The imagery of this card
really now
is your innate essence. Yes.
I mean, I would never have guessed. I'm like, what is that?
Which I love this decan because you were born under what astrologers call the Great Conjunction, because you actually have Saturn, who is considered to be exalted in the sign of Libra, conjunct Jupiter in your 6th house, which I absolutely love, because you have both your sun and your ascendant and your ruling planet Venus in a lovely trine to Saturn, which I don't think I mentioned the aspects, but a trine essentially means that these planetary energies are supportive of one another. Like, there's like helpful energy that's happening here.
Oh, thank you.
So when I saw this, I was like, wow, so much of your life's work is to be in devotion to artistry in some way. Because Libra is a sign also ruled by Venus. You have the sun and Venus conjunct your ascendant. And so automatically I'm looking at that like, oh, her soul signed this contract to be a figure of authority in some capacity in the realms of artistry and sharing your gifts
that
in
is
some way.
Crazy, because I think, I'm an actress, I'm a writer, obviously a podcaster. My brain is totally towards artistry. I don't love a 9 to 5. I love that kind of funky artist life. And I'm like, oh, well, good. It seems like I picked the right career path. Not lucrative, but it's the right career path.
You 100% did. And it's important to continue to stay devoted to that passion, devoted to your art, and remain in that energy of the Taurus frequency, which is so stubborn.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
nothing and no one is getting in your way. Like, this is your mission. This is your life's work. This is how you are of service to humanity. And with Saturn, being in relation to your ascendant point, I would say that this can indicate themes of putting a lot of pressure on the self, being really hard on the self, of like, I've got to meet these deadlines, I've got to get this done. And what we see here is this figure stopping to pause and say, look at how much I've grown so far in my life. So, Beverly, this is something I invite you into, the experience of stopping, pausing, celebrating everything that you've grown so far.
Wow. I'm like, that's deep. No, I love that. Because I think oftentimes, like, me personally, I do have a tendency to be hard on myself. And, like, there's just been a lot going on, especially with like acting and all the strikes that have been happening in Hollywood. And I do think I have been able to kind of give myself that pause because I just took some time off of work, and not really time off of acting because I still audition here and there, but not as feverishly as I was before. But even like taking that time, it kind of made me appreciate it and miss it. Where I'm like, okay, the new year's coming and let's go back. Like, you got this. Where it's like, I was kind of before like forcing myself to do things that I didn't necessarily enjoy, but I was like, well, this is my job. And that's never fun for me, or fun for a Taurus, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, you're so right, because Taurus is all about the senses. It is the connection to the material realm. It is the energy of pleasure, of feeling good. The energy of Taurus to me feels like you're on this luxurious couch and you've got amazing clothes on, and the clothes are like a silky, lovely texture, and you're eating chocolate slowly.
All of that, yes. Yes.
Like all of your senses are activated and like pleasure.
Yes.
Like, Taurus is really drawn to quality over quantity and pleasure, the experience of this material realm and all of the pleasure that's available. But with Saturn ruling the decan, that does indicate that stubbornness of, I have this goal and I need to achieve it. But then Saturn can put that feeling of the weight and the pressure, especially when it's on your ascendant, and then your sun is there, which is the sun is the egoic expression. It's how we're here to shine our light, and it is connected to our purpose. So having the sun on your ascendant is like, your purpose is to fully be yourself and like to follow your instinct, your gut instinct, and to trust your body, what your body is telling you. I am curious about that for you, like your relationship to your body, because that's a really big thing. I mean, not only with Taurus, but then your sun here and Venus also, who is still in a conjunction with your ascendant, but you have Venus, your ruling planet, in Gemini. So it's in the second house. And so then that can also play into like how you communicate with your body. How is your body communicating with you? The love that you have for your body, because that feels like it's a really big part of the soul's work in this lifetime, is to just feel good in your body.
That's really interesting, because I will say that I feel like I'm not always, but more often than not, on some kind of diet. I definitely love my body and appreciate, the health I've had in my life, I'll say. But it's funny because I'm like thinking like my body right now is probably gonna be like, bitch, don't lie, you don't work out. Like, don't even sit here and try to tell the astrologer that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing because you don't work out. But I will say, I always feel better when I do. And usually when I'm on a roll or, doing what I should be doing, I walk every day or more often than not. And when I do that, my body is very happy with me. Like, I get the best sleep. I just feel in shape. between me and my sister, for some reason, we always look 10 pounds lighter than we really are. I don't know if I should even have said that, but hey, it's the truth and nobody's ever going to know how much I weigh. So, I just feel like I got a good hand on that. But I mean, I hope my body's not like, well, you're always dieting and you should just be doing what you should be doing. You know what I mean? I do feel guilty about that at times.
That is really correlated with the Saturnian restriction aspect, because think about Saturn. Saturn is the planet that has the ring around it. And so that can relate to contraction, limitation, constriction.
Interesting.
And yeah, and it's like that is really related to it can be related to like the lower vibrational side of this decan, but it can be a really great thing as well, because in order for us to accomplish things, like for instance, I'm writing a book, right? Like that requires like the Saturnian dedication and time. It's like this book isn't just gonna magically appear out of thin air. Like it's like Saturn is like devote the time to it. And same thing when it comes to taking care of the physical body and the physical health of like, okay, like this requires the time to go on the walk. This requires today I am going to be limiting my calories or not having carbs or whatever it is. But that can also go to a way extreme side of that lower vibrational, where then it's like this extreme feeling of pressure and weight and heaviness. When really Saturn gets a really bad rep of like work hard and like that energy of the restriction, when really Saturn desires to deeply reward us. Because Saturn says, this is the karmic contract that you've signed, which is why I'm looking at your chart and I'm like, ooh, you've signed this karmic contract to be of service to humanity through your art. Like it's very clear in your natal chart.
I love that. That gives me like confidence because I'm like, okay, yes. I mean, not did I ever think I was going down that wrong path, but because I don't think I'd be truly happy without being an artist. That's just what I've always felt called to do, even when I was little. So it's just nice to hear the universe is like, yeah, I have your back.
Yes. Yeah. Which requires like that Saturnian focus, right? Like developing your skill set. Same thing with acting, right? It's like developing these skills. Yes. Like some of us incarnate and we just naturally have these gifts, which for sure, looking at your chart, especially like Venus and Gemini, talking for you is a natural skill set.
Yay.
Like improv is probably like one of your best skills when it comes to acting.
I do enjoy it.
But it's also like in order to cultivate mastery, like that does take time. Saturn is about maturing into our skill sets. But I love that you felt that from a young age of like, this is who I am. This is my gift to the world.
Always. Yeah. I was like, I think like one of my first like third grade papers or something, I remember writing like, I want to be famous all over the world. I want to help entertain people. And my mom was like, that's what you want to do? And I was like, yeah. And then she was like laughing. She's like, your dad and I thought you were going to be a stripper because you just always wanted to be naked. And I was like, hey, I was still entertaining.
Yeah, that's that one. Body confidence right there. You're like, I love my body. Say what you want.
Maybe that's why I'm such a prude now. It's like, no, honey, you were too naked when you were little. Let's keep it covered.
I love that. That's such like a Taurus rising thing, though, of like, I just want to be like in my body and free. And
I was like, I did what? I did. Oh, okay. And now I'm all like, I'm shy.
Because that's probably a belief system. And then when the belief system's so deeply ingrained and rooted, like for instance, for Taurus, that relates to the Hierophant card in the tarot. And we can see that this is a figure of some kind of religious power. And oftentimes any religion or spirituality comes with like a set of belief systems. And so if there's a belief system that says like, oh, it's not safe for me to walk around and like show off my skin in this way, then that's what's going to be perpetuated. in the mind. So that's the other thing being a Taurus rising. It's like continually reflecting on what are my belief systems, because that's how you're operating and moving through life.
Wow, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. I mean, you've like totally just said all the things that are me. Like this really resonates with me. Everything you've said, nothing's been off. So I'm like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. And I'm really just like scratching the surface because there's so much more here. I mean, I don't really want to super dive into Chiron in your first house because that can get really like personal. Chiron is like the deepest wound. So we're not going to dive into that.
We'll talk when we're off air about that one.
Yeah.
That's for the after show. Just joking.
Yeah. And you also have Mars in Taurus in your first house as well, which is like that's also where the physical stubborn energy comes into play. Like
Oh boy.
and also like that's why your soul has a very strong motivation too, like even from that young age of like this is what I want to do, nothing and no one's stopping me. And I keep
Mm.
saying that for you because that feels like very aligned with your frequency that you're here to embody and then teach the collective of how do you remain in this like in your truth and your sovereignty and say and declare to the world this is what I want and nothing no one's stopping me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm like maybe not that I don't believe it, but if I keep instilling it in myself, maybe it'll actually be a little more lucrative or fruitful. Because like right now, it's not like I do it as a as a hobby. Like I actually I've made pretty good money over the years, working in Hollywood. But I think it's like, I don't know. I think also I have to be really specific. And that's why I love vision boards, where I feel like I just have to write things down or even journaling because it kind of like just reaffirms like things that I want. Because, anybody can say, oh, I want to be famous. But I'm like, I really don't want to be famous. I'd like to be a working actor, or I'd like just to have a job in writing or acting or something that is fun, that I don't feel like is really, really hard work, but also pays pretty well. And it's doing something for people, because I feel like entertaining is, like you said, my form of contribution.
Yes. Honestly, you are a natural writer, a natural speaker. And I'm saying that because your ruling planet Venus is in Gemini, which is a sign that it's a mutable air sign. It relates to language and communication and expression. And then you also have Mercury here as well. So Mercury is considered to be domicile at home in Gemini, which is a natural communicator. Like writing and also being in the second house, which is again related to past life indications. To me, this feels like a skill set that it just comes innate within you because you've done it before in previous incarnations.
That's wild.
Writing. Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like I don't even know. That's just amazing. I mean, I love that you can like see that and know that. That makes me feel really confident, I have a question. Like, what do you and I kind of spoke about this when we met in person, but like, what do you say to those people who feel like this is like against God or, not something healthy or something the devil's work or whatever? Like, has anyone ever made you feel that way, or do you have any opinions about that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I grew up in Catholicism, and I remember I was 16 the first time I had ever really learned about astrology because it wasn't a part of my realm being in the church. And I was at my cousin's house. And I remember just like reading everything I could while I was at her house. And then I got home and I was so excited to just tell my parents, like, did you know that there is this system that can teach you about yourself and empower you? And immediately they were like, that's wrong. That's evil. Like that's the devil's work is literally like
You're like,
that
oh,
languaging.
well,
So,
okay then.
but now that, and honestly, like I put it down for years. Like the only reason I studied astrology was because of the first business I had in Minnesota where it was the junk room. And then the statue of Thoth stood out to me. And the landlord was like, do you want this statue? And I immediately was like, yes, I feel at home with this deity, with this energy,
Wow.
without even knowing why. And that was my self-study. So it definitely is something that I have come across in my field. But I will say that it is interesting because in early Christianity, astrology was a part of life. Like it was,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you couldn't even study to be a doctor without knowing astrology.
Wow.
And that's the truth, because
Wow.
astrology is such an ancient system, and it translates to watching the stars, like being a watcher of the stars. So it really is just thousands of years of research documenting, okay, if a planet is in this sign, how does that impact the person who is walking around their whole life with this imprint of this planetary energy being here in this house and in this sign? And so it really is based in so much research, like deep
Mm-hmm.
wisdom, thousands of years of wisdom. And if someone is super resistant to it, I would say that it's not for you. Like it's
Yeah.
like, you know, if you don't want to open your eyes to this beautiful tool of empowerment, like that's on you.
You're like,
Like
then
I'm not
don't.
here like I am not here to be like this is the way and the only way. And like even like what I said about the different ways you're approaching astrology, find what works for you and what resonates for you in that sense. If astrology in general like does not resonate at all, that's also beautiful. I'm a really big believer of following your own unique path and aligning with what is true for you. So,
I love
yeah.
that. I think you said that really, really well because I mean, to me, I feel like this was brought, it's from God, it's from universe, and I feel like you said earlier, it's all oneness. So why not use it to get to know ourselves better? I don't think there's anything wrong
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
Man, okay. Well, I know that people are probably going to be dying to hear from you. I love that we just like scratched the surface of my charts. I have so many more questions. I definitely will be participating in some fun activities that you have coming up. But can you please tell our guests where they can, find your website, find out about, all the cool things that you do because you do them.
Yes, I offer sessions both here in Los Angeles and virtually. So if you're listening to this and you're halfway across the world, feel free to reach out to me. My website is templeradiance.com. I have all of my offerings listed there, and I also have a free library of Reiki infused meditations. So if you've never experienced Reiki before and you just want to dip your toe in, all of the meditations that I have on there, they're completely free and they're all infused with Reiki healing. So you can enjoy that.
And
And
I
oh,
feel
go
like
ahead.
I can speak from experience. Reiki, if you haven't tried it, I definitely say give it a try because you can't really explain it. Like you kind of have to just do it, and it's really if you're searching for like some peace or just to even have some calm and stillness, I that's what I found from it, and I just thought it was really intriguing. And I feel like once again, this is just like the tip of the iceberg for me.
Yes. Yeah, definitely experience Reiki at least once in your life. You
And
won't regret it.
do you do it online?
I do sessions virtually, yes. And coming soon, I'm going to be attuning people to Reiki. I've been working on my Reiki level 1 manual. I'm pouring so much love into it. I didn't want to use like a pre-generated manual. It's all from my heart, and I'm going to be teaching in a very unique way because, something in my training that I wish that I would have learned is about the chakra system. And Reiki and the chakra system is not technically correlated, but when you're working with energy, you're working with the chakra system. And I also study the tree of life. So I'm teaching you how to work with your chakra system, but through the tree of life method, which is super fun. I don't think I've heard of that from anyone that I know in the healing community. So
Wow.
that's going to be coming soon in 2025. I'm going to be attuning people as well.
That is dope, y'all. So make sure you hit up her website, check her out on Instagram, and I'll have all that information in the show notes. Tylynn, I'd love to hear if you have a mantra, a quote, or words to live by.
Something I say a lot, I love to do mirror work and affirmations. And I say this a lot, I am magic. I just look at myself and I say, I am magic. Actually, literally have the magician, which I painted behind me because this is my soul card in tarot.
That's
So
really good. I'm like, whoa.
it was just for fun. I'm not really a painter. I just do it for
That's
fun.
pretty. I like
But yeah,
it.
I am magic because it's like I want to feel that energy of I am a magician creating my life, and I want to amplify the energy of magic in other people.
And I
So,
think you just gave me the episode title of this episode, so thank you.
oh yes, magic.
Dude, totally magic. Is there
Oh wait,
anything else you'd like to say or tell our
yeah,
audience?
really quickly, I wanted to share with you your yearly embodiment card.
Oh, yes,
So I
please.
have a course out now, and I'm going to give your listeners 50% off. So if they want to access it, they can use the code in all caps. It's my year 50 off, and I'll give you that too, so you can put it in the show notes. But
Love
essentially,
it.
this course, it will teach you your yearly embodiment card and a lot more. So we're blending the systems of astrology and tarot. And with this, we're using the solar return chart. So we have a new solar return chart every single year because essentially the sun is continually moving around the zodiacal wheel, and it stops at the exact second where your natal sun is in your chart. So every single year we get a new chart, which will indicate new themes that we're working with.
Oh,
So for
wow.
you, your natal chart is really interesting. It's a 0-degree Libra rising. And in your own natal chart, you have Libra in your 6th house, which is the house of how we're of service, health, routines, rituals. And it's interesting that you said you took a break from work because this is your yearly embodiment card, the 2 of Swords. This is the first decan of Libra ruled by the moon. So this is really a year of an emotional reset, like going inward of like, why am I doing the work that I'm doing in the world? And what are the habits, the rituals, the routines that are supporting this work that I'm doing? Like how I
This
am
is
of service.
2025.
So this is actually the year for everyone. It will be based on your birthday. So it's your
Oh,
own personal solar return
oh,
chart based on your birthday, which is so fun because we all get our own
wow.
new year on our birthday.
Oh,
But you can pull
wow.
this up at any time, and you can even go back and look at prior years and be like, oh, that was my yearly embodiment card for this year. You can go into the future and look at your yearly embodiment card for the future. But for you this year until your birthday again next May, this will be your card. And so it is a lot about going inward, like deep reflection, emotional
Hmm.
balance.
That is so interesting because like even just starting this podcast this year, and I don't know, I got about 8 episodes in and I was like, you know what? I want to change the format of the show because I want to you know, help people purposely find their purpose because I feel like I'm constantly on my quest to kind of find my true purpose and what resonates with me as I try to help people in life because I do want to be of service. So that speaks to me.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know why? It's because you have your what astrologers call the great conjunction, Saturn and Jupiter. And they call that because Saturn is the principle of limitation and contraction, and Jupiter is the energy of expansion. And that's what our universe is based off of, the balance
Mm.
of contraction and expansion. And you
What?
have
I
them
mean,
conjunct.
did I just get like all the best signs or something? Like, oh, my stuff sounds really
Yeah.
good.
And
Like,
you got Saturn exalted. Saturn exalts in the sign of Libra, which is why I looked at your chart and I was like, oh, wow, like she's a figure of authority in like the realms of artistry. Like, but
I
like this
mean,
year like a reset of like going inward and really sitting with the self of how do I desire to bring this forth into my reality, and like deeply connect with that on an emotional level. You see the moon in the background with this decan being ruled by the moon.
Wow. I mean, I love that that's also until like May, because I'm like, okay, I don't have to rush through this. I can keep, turning inward and like, just getting deeper. And really, I think all of that is a part of my journey to really just get to know myself. And not to say I'm not comfortable in my skin, but just to be even more comfortable in my skin.
Yes.
Because like I didn't think podcasting, I never knew it would be so in my wheelhouse, because I'm like, no, I am an actress. No, I am a writer. And I'm like, no, I'm a podcaster. Like, this is actually really fun and easy for me. And I like it, So that's really cool. Like, this was something just so out of like left field. I had a friend who was doing it and was like, you should give it a try. And I'm like, oh wait, it's sticking. Like, this actually works for me.
Yes. Wow. And I invite you to continue to go inward and see what is working for you, like, and what's not. And really consider the habits, the rituals, and the routines that are supporting like more creativity, more inspiration, more love, more beauty in your life, versus the habits and the rituals and the routines that are maybe taking away from that experience of balance, harmony. Because this is a year of like reset with your rituals. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's deep. I'm just like, okay, what am I going to change first? Like, what should I do now? And I'm like, oh, I like it because, there are some things. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Just go inward. Your intuition will tell you. This is a year to develop a deep connection with your intuition.
Well, I'm ready. I'm so curious now to know what my next, chart is going to be.
Oh yeah, well, I'll be back on the pod. We'll do
what I'm saying?
We'll do a whole thing. Yeah.
So I just feel like this happened for a reason, and God, I can't thank you enough for letting me in on all this information. Once again, I just feel like I'm scratching the surface, so I definitely will be in your life a lot more, and I hope my listeners will be as well.
Yes, I'm so happy that the universe connected us.
Too.
So grateful.
Oh my God. Once again, Tylynn Mackenzie. Thank you so much, Tylynn.
Thank you, Beverly.
Bye, guys.